evening, campers, it's me, Kieran, and today we are going to talk about C.J. Sampson's Dissolution, which is a historical fiction piece set in the Tudor period. I thought this would help me look noble, like a knight, but I just look like a medieval bender. No, I meant Futurama, but you know what, you reap what you sow. A Dissolution is a very interesting historical novel, because it is also a detective novel. Some people might not know who C.J. Sampson is, but all you need to know is that he really is a rival to Hilary Mantel. 2 secs. Now what I mean by that is that Hilary Mantel did such a masterful job documenting and exploring the life of Thomas Cromwell within the Wolf Hall trilogy, of which is absolutely phenomenal, that really anyone who writes about the Tudor period is going to be put up against Wolf Hall. And I have to say that Dissolution is doing something very different. Although, like in both books, Thomas Cromwell features, C.J. Sampson uses Cromwell not as a pivotal character, but more so to cement you within the story. Yes, Cromwell features within Dissolution, but he is just the boss of Matthew Shardlake. And what Sampson effortlessly does within a few pages is establish that you do not cross, upset, or anger Thomas Cromwell. You want to be on the side of the crown. And luckily for Matthew Shardlake, he is. Also, he thinks before he is sent off to investigate a murder. Shardlake is a reformer, and we'll touch on what that means later on, and he is a lawyer. So he is sent by Thomas Cromwell to investigate the murder, the absolute beheading of one of the king's commissioners in a faraway monastery in Scarnsea. Unlike the Severed Head, there's a lot of tension in Scarnsea, not only because of the murder and everyone is suspicious of everyone, but this is set during the time of Dissolution. One aspect that I think takes good historical fiction to incredible historical fiction, and indeed this is something that has cemented Hilary Mantel's name, is where the author is able to articulate the problems, the politics, the situation of the time completely to the layman. And C.J. Sampson is able to do that. Although he has a PhD in history and is clearly clued up on the time, he writes in the author's note that there's not much written about the effects of Dissolution, but he's able to articulate what it is, so I can express it now. Now, a lot of people will know that King Henry VIII set up the Anglican movement, that he became the head of the church and therefore needed to separate his ties to the Catholic Church in order to annul his wedding to Catherine of Aragon. Now, one of the shortfalls, oh my god, I'm so hot in this, one of the shortfalls that Henry VIII might not have seen in severing his ties with the Catholic Church is that they also severed the money that was coming to the monasteries. Therefore, Henry VIII needed to gain his own revenue for his own church that he set up. Therefore, he needed to reform the churches. And this means the money is now being taken from the churches, not only by the Catholic side, but also by the Protestant Anglicans. Where Matthew Shardlake comes into all of this is because he's previously lived in quite a well-off area. He's not really seen any of the negative impacts. Now that he's forced by Cromwell to investigate Scarnsea, he realised that not only the monastery, but the town of Scarnsea is absolutely riddled with greed and corruption. Not only does the corruption make this murder mystery a little bit more difficult to solve, but it also changes the motives of people around him in real time. And in real time is an apt phrase, because this novel moves in real time, because our hunchback lawyer really does trudge along investigating the crime, and we follow him with a lot of detail, and one of the worst slow drowning moments I've read. I did let out a number of extended sighs when Shardlake and his apprentice lawyer Mark, who accompanies him, after they have their discussion and decide where to go, when they say something like, maybe we need to go back to the Abbey, and you're just there going, oh my god, the Abbey's such a long way. The narrative and plot can somewhat weigh, but I can appreciate why Sampson has decided to do this, because it's more real life than anything. It would be amiss to talk about a historical detective novel set within a monastery and not mention the absolutely phenomenal Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. Eco's protagonist, William of Baskerville, is somewhat thwarted to the mystery because of his own genius intellect. He's not able to solve it because he's thinking too much. What I have to give props to Sampson is that Shardlake is not a super genius. Yes, he's a smart man, but he just has to deduce how was the person beheaded. There's no other smoke and mirrors to all of this. Yes, there are red herrings that are being pulled, but bar that, the ending might somewhat feel very obvious, but that is what Shardlake has to work with, and the answer is the answer that is given. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Dissolution, but I have to say it is a easier read than Wolf Hall, though this is doing something very different. This is trying to explain the lives, this is trying to explain the backdrop of the Tudors. For me, Dissolution is a 7 out of 10, and I'm definitely interested to read in more of the Shardlake series to see how Samson improves as a writer.